one of the biggest things in training camp right now coming into the season is like what Pascal is going to look like in this like quote unquote new system.
Mm.
We heard him on media day talk about how, as good as a player that he can fit in any system. And I know Blake, yesterday we were at the game and afterwards, like, Darko was talking a little bit about Pascal as well. And there was some things that stood out to you, right?
Yeah, certainly. I thought it was, the most effusive praise we've heard anyone from the coaching staff or the front office throw on Pascal over this last little bit. I know we have a clip we can play now or play later, but Darko kind of raving about not just Pascal in the new system, but just the quality of player Pascal is as well. And what you can pull from that, I think, is that, well, that opens up a lot of options if you're a coach and you have this really versatile lead piece.
Yeah, let's hear that clip.
He's doing a great job. You cannot hide the talent, and he's one of the best players in this league. Yeah, he's going to find his spots on the court. He's going to find his opportunities. I think he's going to be as efficient numbers-wise. I think he's just going to be able to do it with a little bit less dribble and more aggressively.
Yeah, and I think, that last point, I think you can make Pascal more efficient. I think, especially when the offseason was happening, right? So much of the discussion was like, are the Raptors going to trade Pascal? Are they going to trade Pascal to Portland around the time of the draft? Are they going to trade him to Atlanta at the start of free agency, summer league? Oh my God, Pascal wasn't there. And it was confirmed that Pascal was not there just because of the fact that he was in potential trade talks, right? I think that clarifies the situation. And sort of that was sort of the mood and the fear. And it was like, okay, well, now he's extension eligible, but we haven't heard anything about it. I asked Masai about it at media day. I actually asked Masai about OG and Gary's extensions, but it was asked to Masai also, where's Pascal at and his extension. And they're sort of like, we've talked about it, but again, there's nothing sort of like happening, I guess, imminently. And we haven't seen it happen imminently. So I think there was all this sort of like perspective of like, we're looking at the situation through the lens of, are the Raptors trying to move off the situation? But at the same time, I also think that with the new coach, and with Pascal, who was obviously a huge centerpiece of what the Raptors are doing offensively, if you want to install a new offense, you do want to see sort of how he would adapt and sort of fit into it. And again, we've only seen 2 preseason games. He pretty much only played like 2 halves of basketball so far in this new system, but he's looked really good. He's looked really good. I mean, if you're talking about wanting to play unselfish basketball and sort of playmaking through pretty much positions 1 through 4, he wants to see playmaking. And I guess even 5 if Jakob's available. Pascal's been excellent in terms of distributing the ball. I mean, he led the team in assists last night as well. He's a very skilled, talented player, and I think that Pascal's perspective was always, look, doesn't really matter what system is going to be played. I'm confident of my own skills as a basketball player, as a pro, to be able to adapt to it. And at least so far through 2 games, it seems like the coach is happy with what he's doing, and it seems like Pascal's been able to continue to play his game. And if there is room for improvement, it would be something like efficiency, right? His best year when he was most efficient was the year he won Most Improved Player in 2018, 2019. He broke out. He was the Raptors' secondary option when the Raptors won the championship. And he was super efficient that year. I think his efficiency was like true shooting 64% in that range.
62.8.
62.8, so 63%. Like the last couple of years has been more down to 54, 55, 56 sometimes. But, I think there is an opportunity to make him more efficient. And I think some of that probably is cutting down on the hardest shots in basketball, which is sort of isolation, mid-range jumpers off the dribble, which is something he's really worked hard to get better at. But at the same time, hopefully in this offense, there's less of a need for those.
Not only cutting down on the number of difficult isolation plays and things like that, but when you do run them, or if it is a Pascal post-up to open up that spin move or something like that, when we talk about an offense that is more oriented to create little advantages to attack from, getting him in a position where he's driving at a defender who's not entirely in position to start. Like instead of you facing him up and dribbling and then attacking, you catch the ball, and you'll hear the term 0.5 a lot this year. Within half a second, you have caught that ball and decided to attack before the defender can get back in position, and he's a little off balance, or he's on his heels, or the help has to come a little earlier. That's the kind of thing that I think we could see. And if it is effective, will make the actual scoring piece of this easier for each guy, because you are, you're not being tasked with as difficult a thing. And Pascal quietly last year, by the end of the season, had not quite as efficient as his 2018-2019 season, but his 56.5% true shooting mark was the second highest of his career. He had the lowest turnover rate of his career, the highest assist rate of his career high in points per game. I don't know if he'll repeat the career high in points per game and assists per game just because I don't know if he's going to lead the league in minutes again. He probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who has shown, in multiple situations, first as a bench piece, then as a, most improved guy where you are, yes, playing second fiddle to Kawhi and Kyle, and that was an opportunity, but you also had to know your role in your minutes alongside those guys. And then, kind of being the key piece of the run it back year. And he's done this now in a couple of different situations and a couple different team contexts. So I think, you could be very confident with his ability to do this. I guess my question for you, Will, would be, and I've gotten to know Pascal and his camp a little bit over the years, but you've been around more intimately. Does Pascal strike you as the type of guy who the contract situation being up in the air could have an effect on when the season starts? Or do you think he's able to probably compartmentalize because a good Pascal season, a good Raptor season is going to keep him in a good position to get paid anyway?
Look, I think whenever you have, and I've never been in this position, but whenever you have, I'm going to pretend like I have.
Personally?
Whenever you have like hundreds of millions of dollars, at stake, obviously that's going to be something that weighs on your mind. It's just human. But I also think that the perspective, especially even speaking to the camp, is just like they know he's good sort of wherever. You know what I mean? Like his stated intention is he likes being in Toronto. He really, really values the opportunities that come with playing in Canada, playing for Toronto in particular. He's very comfortable here. He wants to stay here long term. But he knows that there's been enough work put into his game. And especially if you look ahead to next year's free agency market, I mean, he's right up there with anybody, in terms of he knows that money's going to come to him. Obviously, you never know with injuries or anything like that. But with the amount of work and the work ethic that he's shown consistently over the course of his career, he's not worried about that aspect. I think from the Raptors side, and whether this is sort of smart or not smart, I think but we've seen Masai and Bobby take this approach with a couple of players in the past that they've had. They like to challenge their stars to get even better. You know what I mean? And I think that if that means that you sort of dangle this carrot of the extension as sort of that reward for it, that is a sort of a risky approach, but I think they've done it in the past. They kind of did it to Kyle. They did it to DeMar, right? And so I think what they're looking for in this case is for Pascal to, definitely fit with Darko, which I think so far, again, through as much as you can take away things after 2 preseason games, a week apart, I think it looks good. He's been a happy camper, things like that. All that is been good on camp and all that kind of stuff. And I just think that, there is room to improve his game, right? You take down some of his minutes, you recontextualize some of his touches, maybe he becomes more efficient overall, right? If he doesn't have to lead the league in minutes, maybe he addresses probably the biggest weakness in his game, which is his crunch time efficiency, right? We've seen that sort of come down a lot, but at the same time, after you're playing 42 minutes, you might miss a jump shot at the end, So
free throws late too.
Free throws late. We saw that again in the in the DeAr DeRozan game. Which, by the way, I guess if I were DeMar, I would definitely send DeAr DeRozan to the game tomorrow at the United Center when the Raptors play the Chicago Bulls. But there's those improvements to be made in Pascal's game, and I think also defensively, right? We know that Pascal can get to a really high level defensively, but I think that when his load is so heavy on offense and he's playing so many minutes, naturally there has to be a bit of a give. And we've seen Pascal compete at a super high level defensively. Can he get back to that as well? So again, I think there's just more opportunity than anything else. And as long as everyone's sort of above board and everyone communicates well with each other, I'm less worried about the situation than I was in the summertime. And I think overall, I just appreciate the fact that we have a very talented player willing to play a variety of different roles and willing to stay long term. Well, there's nothing wrong with this.
No, there's certainly not, especially the part about willing to stay long term, right? Is as long as you have handled this in a way that hasn't eroded the relationship, you're still going to be able to offer him more money than anyone else, right?
Was there a deal out there in the summertime that you were like, oh, wow, we missed on this?
I mean, not one that we heard the details of, which is, this is how these things tend to work is, theoretically draft compensation, but draft compensation could mean like a top 55 second rounder or a guaranteed number 1 pick, right?
I'm just saying the best player or the most intriguing prospect was like AJ Griffin.
Yeah.
And
if
like
you
AJ,
liked Kobe Buffkin that much, and I do,
sure.
But you would have drafted him over Grady Dick.
Yes. The Raptors took Grady 13th and Kobe was 15th, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another question for you on Pascal. So over the last couple of years, and this is true of everyone, this isn't just a Pascal thing, but in his 2018-2019 season where he won Most Improved Player, a huge part of that was he started knocking down threes. He hit about 37% of his threes on almost 3 attempts a game. He hasn't been that level of a three-point shooter since. Over the last 3 years, it's been low 30s. He was 32.4% last year. Now, we know that a pull-up three against the defender at the top of the floor is a much more difficult shot than a spot-up catch-and-shoot corner three. Pascal himself has shot 7 to 8 percentage points higher on catch-and-shoot versus pull-up, which is right in line with what we'd expect from guys. With this new system, and particularly with the potential for Scotty Barnes to handle the ball a little bit more, do you think we'll see Pascal used differently behind the arc, or is it still too difficult to put him in the corner given how much you want him handling and involved?
Yeah. So, I mean, he's definitely most efficient from the corners, right? That year that you're talking about when the Raptors won the championship, a lot of his spike in three-point shooting was because he had a lot more corner threes versus threes at the top. I think progressively, as he become more featured of a player on offense, and as he's improved his offensive arsenal, a lot of that improvement is at the top of the floor, right? And so he's just not naturally in the corners as much. If the Raptors had more playmakers around him, then yeah, he could go wait in the corner like OG, but he doesn't have that sort of luxury. But even still, I think that there's no reason why he couldn't continue to improve, for example, his catch and shoot efficiency above the break, which is sort of like the area you want him to be at the most. And
well, that's the new spacing dynamic in the NBA, right? Is like we have spaced the floor horizontally as much as we can possibly space it, and teams by and large know how to defend that.
Yeah.
So now you're trying to space it vertically to open up space in the paint that way.
Yeah, and shout out to, I think Savannah noticed this at practice, but there's like the taped lines that are down at the OVO pass facilities where they have like essentially like a 4-point line almost. And it's not for players to shoot from there. It's just like a reminder sort of where to space, right? But yeah, I mean, at the same time, like I think with how hard Pascal works, I never really saw a reason why he couldn't improve his three-point shooting from above the break. It's not like he has a broken shot or anything like that. So I think there is more ability. Like if he averaged like 5 3-point attempts per game this year, I'd be pretty happy with that. Obviously with the caveat that I would like most of those to be catch and shoot rather than pull-ups. But I wouldn't have any issue with that. Would you have any issue with that?
No, not at all. And even if he ends up in the corner, again, why you don't have a guy like Pascal Siakam in the corner is because, like you're alluding to, he's too valuable at the top of the floor, creating and attacking seams and facing guys up and things like that. He took only about 30% of his three-point attempts from the corners last year. So that number is like heavily impacted by the amount of pull-ups. So I think that's something they're probably going to look at. And we've already seen it a little bit where, hey, there's this DHO action on this side of the floor, and the way the defense sinks in is if there's, you fake the handoff and quickly swing it to the other side, that top wing three on the weak side is going to be open until the defense recovers. So, probably ideally you want Pascal attacking the middle as that defender tries to get back in position. But if that defender's late or Pascal's feeling it that day, those top threes will be there.
Yeah. And I think this also speaks to the improvements that need to be made from Scotty and OG as playmakers, because if the stronger they get as playmakers, the more opportunities you get to put Pascal in a corner where he's most efficient shooting wise. But I'm not too worried. But I guess my last question about this before we go to break is just, should we extend him right now, Blake? Where are we at?
So look,
you're really great with the money and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and look, the money is going to take some time to wrap your head around numbers wise, because the salary cap just went up 10%, and we're anticipating it's going to go up 10% again. The number, like if it's a 9-figure number that starts with a 2, you might just have to get used to that new reality in the NBA.
Yeah.
So you have to think of this more as, well, it's a max contract. The actual dollar amount doesn't matter. It's taking up this percentage of the cap. I think if you are Pascal, you're still pretty open to signing that right now. And why the Raptors why the Raptors didn't for a long stretch was, once you extend him, well, that takes a trade off the table for a while. If you think there's even, a 20% chance that you're going to want to trade him by the deadline, this doesn't work, or the team underperforms, or, OG and Scotty both get hurt. So even though Pascal's been good, the season sucks for whatever reason. If you think there's even a small percentage chance of that, and there's going to be a market for the guy, you maybe don't want to sign him to the extension right now to keep that option open in February. But that's about the only argument against the Pascal extension right now, because even if you are not the most comfortable about giving a max extension to a guy who is going to be 30 in the offseason, those deals don't always age the best. He's going to get it from someone. And the way that the NBA works in the capped environment is you're better off taking the risk and maybe on the back end you're overpaying a guy slightly than losing another guy for nothing.
Yeah. We definitely don't want to see a repeat of that. So.
I would, if I were the Raptors, I would sign him to the extension now. It does take the trade off the table in February. So to me, it signals that they're at least kind of considering that option still.
Well, I mean, you're tight with the front office. You should just tell them that in the next Raptors home game.
Yeah, I don't know. If I nudge them for, hey, which 905 guy should get a tryout versus an actual 905 deal, maybe they would listen. I don't think they're going to listen on Pascal's next extension.
Blake, we're going to need you to use your clout for good. All right.